Hello, good morning, 7th grade students of SMPK Penabur Jakarta. We meet again on this video. In the last video, we have learned about classification or taxonomy. We have also learned about binomial nomenclature, identification key, and we have know a little bit about the 5 kingdom classification. Now, on this video, we will learn about the first 3 kingdoms from the 5 kingdom classification, which are Monera, Protista, and Fungi. Well, prepare yourself and let's get started. In the first slide, you can see a diagram that shows us a brief explanation about 5 kingdom classification. You can see the name of each kingdom as well as the characteristic for each of it. Now we want to discuss or we want to learn about the first kingdom, which is Monera. Monera is a prokaryote. It is a unicellular organism. Some of them are autotrophs and some of them are heterotrophs. They can reproduce asexually by doing binary fission every 20 minutes and reproduce sexually by doing a conjugation. They have cell membrane, cell wall, and capsule. And they can live in land, which is called as terrestrial Monera, and they can live in water, which is called as aquatic Monera. This is a diagram about bacteria cell anatomy or Monera cell anatomy, which is considered as prokaryotic organism. There are 2 types of cell wall in bacteria based on their composition. These types of cell wall can be studied using gram staining. The first type is gram-positive bacteria, colored in purple. Their cell wall are made of a thick layer of peptidoglycan. You can see in the picture a gram-positive bacteria which is colored in purple. The second type is gram-negative bacteria, colored in red. Their cell wall are made of thin layer of peptidoglycan. You can see also the bacteria in the picture. One type of bacteria reproduction is binary fission. It is an asexual form of reproduction, and because it is an asexual form of reproduction, there is no exchange or recombination of genetic material. How do they do it? When a bacterial cell has grown to double its original size, it replicates its DNA and divides in half to produce 2 identical daughter cells. This is a diagram that shows us the binary fission of a bacteria. You can see from one cell, it will undergo a division and the result is 2 identical daughter cells. You can also see the scheme of cell division where bacteria cells undergo exponential growth and it can reach 1 million of population just in a few hours. Here you can see also the bacterial growth phase, from the lag phase followed by exponential, stationary, until death and long-term stationary phase. You can discuss this graphic with your teacher in your class. The second mechanism of reproduction is conjugation. It is a form of sexual reproduction. An exchange of genetic material is involved. When 2 cells conjugate, a long protein bridge is formed between them. Genetic info is transferred from one cell to the another via this bridge. the recipient now has new genetic material and the genetic diversity in the population has increased. This helps the bacteria survive on environmental change. Here you can see the diagram that shows us a bacterial conjugation where the genetic material transfer happens between the two cells. Now let's talk about the diversity of Monera or bacteria. Its diversity comes from cell morphology. There are several types of cell morphology of bacteria. The first one is Bacillus, where the organism has rods-like shape. The second type is Coccus, or spears-like shape. And the third group is a spiral cell, which has a little bit curved shape on their cell. Monera consists of two major groups. The first one is bacteria, which consists of any organism which is heterotroph and motile organism. And the second group is blue-green algae, which is photosynthetic organism and non-motile organism. You can see the example of species from each group, like E. coli or Lactobacillus bulgaricus from the bacteria, and Cylindrospermum and Nostoc from the blue-green algae. Now, let's discover the roles of Monera in the ecosystem. Monera give advantages to human and other organisms, such as it responsible in the biochemistry cycle, it lives as a decomposer, and some species responsible for nitrogen fixation from the air. It also have mutualistic relationship with other organisms, and it can be used for biotechnology, such as for producing food or textile. It also has disadvantages. Monera known as pathogen to plants, animals, and humans, and it also harmful to food and textile products. Now let's talk about Protists, the second kingdom of five kingdom classification. Protist is eukaryotes. It is a unicellular but also a multicellular organism. They can reproduce asexually and sexually, and they consist of three major groups. First is algae or plant-like protists. The second is protozoa or animal-like protists, and the third one is slime mold or fungi-like protists. Because of its complexity and vast diversity, protists are difficult to be classified. So, in the most practical way, protists had been classified based on how they utilize carbon resource or how they utilize their food. The first one is autotroph protists, which consists of algae. The second group is heterotroph protists, which consists of protozoa or animal-like protists. And the third group is heterotroph protists also, but it consists of fungi-like protists. First, let's talk about algae. Algae is unicellular or multicellular organism. Their size vary from micro to macro. They are autotroph organisms. They can do photosynthesis, and they live as a plankton floating in the surface of the water. They can live also as benthic or in the bottom of the aquatic zone, or it can also attach to plants or rocks. Next is protozoa. Protozoa is a unicellular organism. Most of them are motile, and most of them live in aquatic environment. They are heterotroph organisms, and they can reproduce by doing binary fission, multiple fission, or conjugation. The third group is fungus like Protists. They are heterotroph. They are saprophytic or parasitic organisms. Most of them live in humid places which contain many organic substances. For example, rotten wood, landfill, rainforest, and leaf litter. They can reproduce by making a spora from the fruiting body. Unlike fungi, these organisms are motile during some stage in its life cycle. The last kingdom we will learn is fungi. These are the general characteristics of fungi. They are eukaryotes. Most of them are unicellular, but also most of them are multicellular, and they have filament structure on their body. They are chemoheterotroph. They doesn't has chlorophyll, thus they cannot produce their own food. They are saprophytic and parasitic organisms. They absorb the organic material by producing extracellular enzyme. Their cell wall made up by polysaccharide and chitin. They build hyphae and mycelium to build their body. And they produce spore for reproduction. This is the fungi classification. Based on its morphology, fungi can be divided into three big groups. The first one is yeast, which consists of unicellular organisms. Next is mold, which consists of multicellular organisms. And the third group is mushroom, which also consists of multicellular organisms. This first picture shows us the yeast, the unicellular fungi. Next is the mold. And last is the mushroom, the most widely known shape of fungi. Based on its sexual reproduction, hyphae structure, and genetic profile, fungi can be grouped into four phyla. First is Zygomycota. Next is Ascomycota. Third is Basidiomycota. And the last group is Chytridiomycota. We will see the description of each group in the next slide. Zygomycota, also known as Zygomycetes. They are multicellular organisms. They doing sexual reproduction by producing zygospore, and they also can reproduce asexually by producing sporaniospore. They are saprophytic and parasitic organisms. The example of Zygomycota are Rhizopus, Mucor, and Syncephalastrum. The most known Zygomycota is Rhizopus, or the bread fungi. Next is Ascomycota. Ascomycota, also known as Ascomycetes or sac fungi. It produces ascocarp or ascoma to store spores. They can reproduce sexually by producing ascospore. They are unicellular and multicellular organisms. They are saprophytic or parasitic organisms. The example of Ascomycota are Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is a unicellular organism, Aspergillus and Penicillium, which are multicellular organisms. The third group of fungi is Basidiomycota, also known as Basidiomycetes or club fungi. Basidiomycota produce basidium in rod-like form. They can reproduce sexually by producing basidiospores. They consist of unicellular organism or even multicellular organism. They live saprophytically and parasitically. The example of Basidiomycota is Phalamyces, which is unicellular organism, and Agaricus, which is multicellular fungi. The last group of fungi is Chytridiomycota. It is a primitive fungi. They consist of unicellular organisms and they live as colony. They produce flagellated spores. They live saprophytic and parasitically. The examples of Chytridiomycota are Alomyces macrogynous and Rhizopidium sperotheca. Fungi have roles in the ecosystem. They give advantages to other organisms such as they are responsible in the biogeochemistry cycle, they live as a decomposer, and they can be consumed or used as material for producing other food, such as tempeh. Fungi is also known as source of nutrition, and they can have mutualistic relationship with other organisms. Meanwhile, they also have disadvantages. They are pathogen to plants, animals, and humans, and some of them are parasite and produce toxin. Well, that's a brief explanation that we have learned today about the first three kingdoms from the five kingdom classification. You have seen the description of Monera, Protista, and fungi. You can share and discuss furthermore about these three kingdoms with your teacher, and please do the quiz for evaluate your understanding on this topic. See you on the next material, and God bless you.